Welcome everybody to episode 12 of Brace for Impact. It's a dozen. It'll be a baker's dozen next time around. I am Benikage. With me is the ever so wonderful Parks.
Hello.
Good evening, Parks. How you doing, man?
All right. I mean, we were both just
He's
talking
snowed in,
earlier.
chat. He's
No,
fucking snowed in.
there
Oh,
was a
he's,
lot
he's already
of.
snowed.
There's your one.
Oh
We're
my
gonna get a
god.
we're gonna get a compilation soon of that for sure. We'll make a short of just every single time somebody said somebody after they say a swear is just me saying there's your one. Um,
Yeah.
that's unfortunate. That's early. That's early. That might be the fastest.
That's record
That's
breaking. Yeah.
record
That's
breaking.
record breaking.
So unfortunate for you. Well, we're like 30 seconds in. And you do that.
I
That's
know. Run it back. Anyway,
right.
look, we got a lot to cover, right?
Yeah, we do.
There was a lot of events, especially like events outside the cash cups, right? And I think we
Yeah.
should start with probably the most important of them, and that is the Asia Pacific Site. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to be the qualifiers for Impact Season 3, right? They kind
Yeah.
of concluded around the last recording of the last episode. We didn't really get to talk about them, so let's talk about them. And where do you want to start? I say we start in Europe.
I think we start in Europe as well. Yeah, no, like you mentioned, the last time we recorded, only the first qualifier had been gone through, and we'd spent so long talking about
Right,
Katowice. It made sense to kind of push this one back because that way we'll have both of
right.
them done. It's only 2 qualifiers for each of the regions, 3 regions, so 6 qualifiers to go through, and we don't have to rapidly go through them, but it's not going to take super long to get through these
No, but
because
let's start with the
yeah,
first open qualifier for Europe. And the two that came out of this, out of all the teams, are Outcast, which is Anna, Kiki, Linnea, Minnie, and Pollux. Remember, a lot of that is the dropped roster from NIP.
yeah,
Um, and also, we run this place, which for anybody who's a women's Counter Strike historian, um, that's the old XSET Team Originum Besiktas lineup: Giuliano, Zaz, Crisala, and they picked up, of course, Kiosa and Manka for this qualifier. They made it through. They're
yeah.
through. So the old guard is back.
The old guard. No, you're right. And I mean, looking at the names here, I don't. I this isn't the problem. My EU qualifier stuff is not on par. I don't recognize many of these names. I mean, there's a guy named Polt who was, or person named Polt, sorry, person named Polt who's on a team called Incilio, who was
Insalio,
coaching.
yeah,
Insalio
yeah.
was
That's a
coaching the female
Russian.
side.
It's a Russian Belarus mix.
Yeah,
So, but he's the coach, Polt.
yeah. And then I don't know. I don't. Oh, Letty is on cute. That's foreshadowing.
Yep,
That's a
was
little bit
on
for
cute.
was on cute. But no, I mean, Kiki getting through is really cool considering that she just was in as a stand-in for Valkyries, or sorry, Saints, not
Saints,
Valkyries.
yes.
Other teams are available. Saints, Saints.
That's a Canadian
That
broadcasting reference
that's
there
actually a British
as well.
broadcasting
It
reference. That's
is.
not a
You're right.
Canadian
It
one.
is. You're
We
right.
don't care enough.
No, that's true. But the point I think with this is it's nice to see Kiki who stood in for Saints, who did the best that she could for Saints.
Yeah,
And I didn't think it's not a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. With Minnie, with Pollux, that's players who were, left on IP. They're back. They're in for a third season of Impact. I think that's nice. Um, Also, I feel gutted for first off Mikeri, who we saw in the Fast Cup go pretty deep into the tournament. More on that later, but also Jamie because I'm a big Jamie fan, and she's come up one map short against Outcast, which I think is unfortunate. At least in this first qualifier, right?
yeah.
That
That's
was the team
this.
of Flawless that had Hellrose on it as well, who's a very very historic player.
Elrose,
But
Gina, Annika, Jamie, and Mikiri.
yeah, so um, look, a good run for Flawless. They come up short. That's open qualifier number 1 done and dusted, unless you have any other notes for open qualifier number 1.
No notes, head empty. Qualifier number 2 on the way, right? I
Absolutely. And
this
and and that second qualifier, um we had a bit of it was weird. So Shinigami actually qualified, right?
hold on. We should probably read the
Yes.
press release that came from ESL Impact on this
I'll
first,
let
and
you
then
read
kind
the
of come
press
back over
release.
this. So, press release came out after the end of qualifier number 2, for a very interesting reason. Following the European Open Qualifier 2 last weekend, we received reports that one of participating teams violating the ESL Impact rulebook. After launching an investigation and careful consideration of the evidence, a decision has been made to disqualify Shinigami from the qualifier due to fielding an underage player in their roster. in
Yes,
order
a
to.
reminder, they have to be 16.
Yes, they do have to be
So
16 played. That's it's actually I think it's the same reason why Calix can't play in ECL Challenger
right,
in NA because he's qualified like 3 times now. It seems like almost every single time when he gets on a team, they qualify, and he's a big part of that. But because
right,
he's not of age to get in there, he constantly has been playing in advanced instead.
yeah.
So they go on
It was
to.
also, if you remember, the reason Poppins wasn't in season
Yes,
1.
Poppins is the other big example of that. She wasn't
Yes,
able to play because too young for that.
right,
And then the statement finishes off in order to fill out the last remaining slot in the European division of ESL Impact Season 3. In accordance with the rulebook, a replacement bracket has been played out between all teams that lost in the
right,
to the disqualified team. MVP emerged victorious, and thus will replace Shinigami in the upcoming competition. So,
right. Note on this that I think, and I think it's very fair to run the whole bracket. I think that was a nice touch because I honestly would have thought the decision would have been made to now previously in North America, you remember with the streaming violations, it was
yes.
just we're going to take the next team up, and boom, they've got the spot now, right? So this time it was different, and they could have just said, "Oh, we're going to do like," so they could have just bumped the team up, but
Yeah.
they didn't. They said everybody along in that route of the bracket's going to replay the bracket. So we got an interesting final. Flawless was on the other side, so unfortunately, they fell 2-1 to Aces. That came a map short again.
Ouch.
Uh, Aces, of course, is low player. I think it's Moneymoon, Milo,
Mamoons?
Missy. Yeah, I think it's Moneymoon or I always called it Mashmoons, but it's not Mashmoons.
Yeah.
It's I
I
can't
think
remember.
Swedish.
They told me it this weekend too, and now
Yeah.
my head I just can't remember. But Milo, Missy, and Waldy, and I do have to say, first off, Amir, the coach who's been in this scene for a while, he's made it to Impact now. I am so happy for Missy because Missy has been on the end of some absolutely heartbreaking losses. I remember when she was on Orgless, they were getting to Cash Cup finals and losing in like overtime, round 30, round 20.
Oh.
It's like they went, I think, 3 or 4 finals in a row where they lost like very close third maps, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just heartbreaking. And finally, she's over the line, and she's in the Impact League. She's in the season, which is great. I think it's fantastic. I'm a big fan of Missy. She's a pretty good player as well. So looking forward to seeing Aces and how well they can perform. Obviously, it's going to be stacked against a lot of the qualifier teams because the invite teams are going to be, the strong ones in the scene, NIP, Big Akipa, things like that. But MVP is back, Patya Shia, but an interesting name on this team, Parks. A younger player, right?
Yeah.
Not younger like 20, but who's been in the scene for a while, who's a good player and a lovely personality, Moraltis. And Moraltis is in the Impact League. I am so happy for Moraltis too, because she tweeted as well. I don't know if you remember, she tweeted a little bit of a month ago, like, I have no idea how I can make it as a pro player. Like, it just seems that no matter how hard I try, I can't make it. And I tried to encourage her, right? Because
Yeah.
I tried to take something from a book I had read that said, you know, there's more than one ways to skin a cat. If you don't make it as a player, you can make it as a coach. You can make it as a commentator. You can make it as an there's more than one ways to make esports your career, and that's what I told her. And she took I hope she took solace in that. But she's made impact as a player. She's in season 3. I'm so happy for her.
I'm really glad you're happy for her. I honestly like it's really it really makes it cool that with the extra 4 slots that Europe has now, we saw the invites kind of come through, and I mean you got 9 Pandas Fearless, Astralis Female, Big Akipa, Copenhagen Flames, Navi Javelins, Nigma Galaxy, NIP. That is 7 of the 8 teams under an organization. I think Angels is an organization as well. I'm not too
Yes, they're
sure.
signed to VP.
Yeah, so um that's and that so if you look at that and you think about it from a big spot here, um those 8 teams should in practical theory should be the ones qualifying every single time,
Yep.
right? They're the ones that are paid to do this. They're going to have the best chance of doing that. So having that extra 4 slots come in
Yep.
gives most valuable players, gives Aces, gives We Run This Place, gives Outcasts those extra spots to then come in and say, listen, we're free agents. we're a new team. We're coming in. We're trying to show that there's more than just what's under the organization. It opens things up a lot more, and that's really good for
Yeah.
the scene, especially in Europe where there's a lot of teams that come into these qualifiers. There's a big scene for it because everybody's looking and going, why not? Let's give it a shot.
Yep. More on that big scene a little bit later in this podcast. So let's run through the groups real quick, right? So
Yeah,
with everything set, we might as well run through the groups. So
might as well.
in the groups, we are going to have. I've just lost the page. There we go. So Group A: Aces, MVP, Ninjas in Pajamas, Enigma Galaxy, Biggie Keepa, and Astralis. There's some interesting matchups in here. First off, I am curious as to what NIP do, because obviously Enigma's the favorite,
Yeah,
and everybody's going to be gunning for them. I think there might be an opportunity where they could drop a series in this regular season. More on why a little bit later. But I think NIP are the number two, the hard number two here. But Biggie Keepa played Vertigo over the weekend 4 times. They won 3 of it. The one that mattered the most, they didn't win, unfortunately.
right.
However, they look very good on that map. And with Josie in the lineup, this is a very good team. So I would definitely put them in the picture as well. I think Astralis is a hard number 4. And then you've got MVP and Aces. Group B, we run this place, is the big enigma in this group, man. How much does the old guard have? How much does Giuliano and Zaz and Crisala have, and Krezi for short, have in them still from having such an extended break, that they can come back in and maybe try and dominate this group? Outcast Angels, I think, are outsiders. Navi Javelins is certainly the favorites, but they're going to have a tough test in Nine Pandas Fearless. So I think Navi and Nine Pandas are definitely 1 and 2. Angels are probably 3 for me, and then
Yeah.
Copenhagen are 4. But you could certainly swap between the two. We run this place certainly could creep up there as well. You never know. I think they're the big enigma in this group as we run this place. Really, I mean, it's so hard to pin where this team is at, given the limited showing that we have had. But that's Group B. So I'm excited for Europe. I think it's going to be a pure slugfest in Group B. And I think for that second spot in Group A, it's going to be much of the same. I'm really, really looking forward to this.
Now, the one question I have, and I think we talked about this, or maybe Leon and I talked about this at another time. I'm pretty sure Giuliano's still under contract to play Valorant with G2. Am I correct in that?
I have no clue. I don't
Okay,
follow the scene,
right.
so
You do
I
not follow
couldn't
it.
tell you.
So, pure speculation on that. I don't remember if she does or not. I could quickly probably check her Twitter and see. But that's potentially something else that kind of comes into
Well,
this
people are
is
hinting at this, right? But I don't believe the contract would have an exclusivity clause that says you couldn't compete in other
well, I'm
games.
not worried about that. I'm worried about the fact that she's going to be having to divide her time between practicing Valorant and
Right.
going that
Yes.
with her team, and then also coming back and
Yes.
doing a lot of stuff in CS if they want to be competitive. If it's just, listen, we qualified, we're going to have fun with this. Who cares? But if they're going to try and, as I would expect from them, because their players have shown over and over again, they have a very large competitive spirit, and they're going to try to be the best at whatever they're in. Yeah, currently I just found her Twitter here. It does look like
Yeah.
she's still the IGL for G2. So
It's really weird because I think part of me wants to say, like, they're gonna have the mindset, oh, we're pugging it out, like
yeah,
we're pugging it out and blah 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 blah, and that's fine, like that's totally fine. But also, I can't remember if it was Krasi or Zaz, but one of the two tweeted out a little while ago, "Oh, I'm back in CS:GO now," which
yeah,
makes it seem like Valorant's done, Valorant's over, and it's full time CS:GO.
yeah.
Which these players are certainly good enough that they can come back and make careers out of this, right? Like
Oh, for
there's
sure, 100%.
100%. But it's also the fact that is there a divide in the team where one or two players are thinking, "Oh, we're gonna pug this out because we're contracted elsewhere," and then the other two are like, "Oh, this is it." Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I think that is going to be cause quite a bit of friction. But we'll have to see. I mean, that's just purely speculation. I'm not really the guy. Well, I am the guy, but that's besides the point. Um,
I'm the
as
guy.
I'm the guy, yes. So, but that's it is what it is. So,
Yeah,
um,
that's
I think
Europe.
moving on. Yep, we're going to go to South America next.
Yep.
We'll leave NA for the last because I know you like that NA pride. And Open qualifier number 1 came down to there wasn't a ton of teams in the qualifiers. So I was kind of quite surprised, but
Mm,
W7M beat LRV 2-0. There was not really a ton of surprises in that result. That put W7M through, and Endgame beat Parabellum. Also, not a ton of surprises in that result, I want to say. Endgame actually lost the first map on that one pretty closely, but then they wound up rolling the other two.
Yeah, just looking at that,
Uh,
it's
yeah,
16-13 loss on Overpass, and then they went 16-2 on Vertigo and 16-6 on Ancient. So,
yeah. Shades of the Fast Cup, which we'll talk about
wow.
a
Yeah,
little bit later.
we're getting to
Uh,
there.
yeah, but that's gonna be my mantra is a little bit later.
Yeah,
Um, but no, so W7M and Endgame are through. Some of the great names you see, LaFlix is on here. Nami, I'm a big fan of Nami on Endgame. Think she's a
yeah,
really good up and coming player. She's very young too. I think she's 18. So we get to see her in the league. And then W7M has this interesting mix now with Bruna Killer, who is Bruna Killer and Uliana are two that like it they're just when they're on, they're so sharp, and they're
yeah,
some of the cleanest aims. And now they've got Madi from Furia, who remember Furia's made the change for Bokor.
yep.
Madi's now here in W7M, so this is going to be a lineup to watch. They're gonna it's still going to be that same mantra where they're going to pack a pretty good punch. I think they're going to pack a punch specifically on Mirage because they did prior to the change. And Furia played Mirage pretty heavily, so Madi's going to have just as much knowledge and impact on the Mirage. So I think definitely one to look out for is W7M.
Yeah, and I mean, W7M going through and Endgame going through, you mentioned that there wasn't really a lot of teams. We look at the second qualifier and three notable participants.
Yep, we had one auto qualifier, and that was LRV.
LRV
Literally just
qualifying,
auto
yeah, they just
qualify.
they walked in and they qualified. That was, you know what?
Yep.
Honestly, this is gonna be kind of weird. That sounds a lot like the
North America.
the first season one Impact
Yeah,
North American
the second
qualifier.
North American qualifier.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you walked on and you qualified, and
Yep.
the second one was going to be the second one was going to have like one match to determine because there was five teams looking for the spots, and then they were called Sigma at the time. That was Tat's team that went and turned into
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Lo-Fi.
yeah, yeah.
They forgot to check in, and then all the other teams just qualified straight in. So,
Yep.
it's one of those things.
We did get a match though.
We did, yeah,
Parabellum and Unique. So Unique was this interesting team. 11 was on this team, as well. Ocean, not that Ocean, different Ocean. So
yeah, not the fantastic
we're gonna have
Canadian
to start
talent.
calling him Atlantic Ocean, and then calling them like
No,
Southern Atlantic
they'd
Ocean
be
or
Atlantic. He'd
something.
be Pacific because he's in BC.
That's true. There you go.
He's
There you
yeah,
go. So, but no, Parabellum beat Unique 16-4, 16-6. No surprises there, really. So it will be LRV and Parabellum. And they're joining the invites Black Dragons, B4, Furia, and MIBR. So interesting teams. MIBR going through a little bit of a rough spot, a little bit of few changes as well. Um, and I think those, let's look at the group, shall we? Let's go straight into the groups, right? So
yeah,
Group A, Furia, MIBR, W7M, Parabellum. This is Furious group, mate. This is this is
yeah.
Furious group. The second team to qualify, um, I think it's actually going to be W7M,
Interesting. Okay.
but I don't actually think they have the in-game leadership like MIBR are going to have, and MIBR probably going to take it. But my heart says W7M.
you
So,
you know more than I do in that, so I'll leave it to you on that one.
all right, Group B. But I mean, whoever doesn't win between MIBR and W7M is getting third. Like that's going to be Parabellum at the bottom. Group B, B4 Black Dragons, Endgame, LRV. Much more interesting matchup, but I think it's pretty much on lock. I think it's going to be B4 at the top, Black Dragons in second. Endgame are going to cause some problems, though.
Okay.
That's the thing I would look out for. Endgame are definitely going to cause some problems. This is a pretty good side that works very well together. Black Dragons have a lot more experience. They have a lot good, crisp aim. Sign-on's one I'm definitely looking at. Anna X can turn it on as well, but I think Endgame are just going to be really, really punchy. It's the team you hate to play, right?
Yeah.
um, I think that's what Endgame's going to be, but I still think it's going to be Endgame third, LRV at the bottom, and then of course this format's still changing. So in Europe, the group winners go to LAN,
Yeah.
period, and then the two second place teams play, and the winner in a best of three, and then the winner in that best of three goes to LAN.
Exactly. That
In
would
South
all
America
for
and North
Dallas.
America, it's the same format, right?
Yeah. And
A1 plays B2, B1 plays A2, right? So,
to be or not to
um,
be, right?
yeah,
Call back on that one.
throwback,
Call back.
throwback.
Uh,
So that would leave Furia and Black Dragons and versus B4 versus MIBR or W7. But we can talk about those matchups when they come due.
yeah, and they'll come up
But that's
pretty
South
quickly,
America.
right? So
Yeah,
they're
that's South
they're gonna
America
happen.
wrap up.
Yeah, South
Any
America.
any comments on South America, Parks? I
They're
need
pretty
to
cool.
slowly. You
They're
are
pretty
like
cool.
me. You're
No, they're
like
pretty
me.
cool.
When I first started commentating, I didn't really
You're
do South America. I didn't really care
yeah,
much for it, but slowly, Milk, great dude. Shout out to Milk for all the work he does for the scene, by the way.
yeah.
Slowly started to pull on the rope and rein me into South America. Now it's the
So
region. It's one of the regions I love the most.
so here's what I'll say about that is I love South American CS. I always will. I do not have the time in my day. Like I look at the amount of stuff I do around North
Okay.
America and it is I central. It is the big part of my day. It is the big part of my whole thing. I
Yep.
would love to do more South American series. At the same
Yep.
time, South American matches happen at the same time North American matches happen.
Well, they don't, but they always run long.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I there's certain priorities there, and I'm more than happy to continue to just do North American and
How would you
keep an eye on
like?
South American.
How would you like Oceania? Now
I do
now it's
Oceania.
just gotten crazy.
I was up when you did
I
that.
know,
I
I
came
know,
in.
I know.
I actually ended up staying up for like another hour after that, anyways. So like I
I
could
don't
have
know why.
stayed there.
Yeah,
And
you might as well just end the
might as well do
series.
Oceania. You can wake up for you can sleep in a few extra hours and do Asia Pacific.
Asia Pacific.
I'll do
Yeah, yeah.
Oceania specifically, and
It'll
that's
get
how
better
we'll.
after next weekend, actually, because we're gonna leap ahead, and then the games will be at 2 a.m. instead of 1 a.m. But over to our final region, right? And that
Mhm.
is North America. Um, So let's talk open qualifier number one. Interesting teams. Shimmer was one of the teams here. And I think this is going to be a team to watch. This is going to be a dynamite team. Abby, Lisa, Empathy, Alex, and Vanessa. Um, they beat Cherry Bombs, which was played pretty good. Swan, Kathy, Shelby, Genesis, and Giraffe. But it was Shimmer in the end, absolutely bowling over the competition. I was going to say Cherry played good in the opening round, but they
Yes,
got absolutely steamrolled in this semifinal.
yeah, there was a quarterfinal to that round. And
Yeah.
Cherry Bombs ended up playing Arrows Ethereal, I think,
Yeah,
and
that was a 16-14,
they did
I
really
think.
well. No, it's best of three, so they ended up winning, I think 2-1. I think they lost first map on Mirage, and then they ended up having to go and they won the next two maps to
Oh,
get
you're
to the
right, you're
semi.
right, you're right.
And I mean that was with Giraffe playing with Korea Ping. She's now
Yep.
thankfully back in the United States. But
Welcome back, by the way, to
welcome
Giraffe.
back.
Shout out Giraffe.
No, but you mentioned Shimmer being a team to look out for. Yeah, they are definitely a team to look out for. I mean, you mentioned the names on this team alone, and we've talked their praises a lot on here. Empathy, who recently left EG, helping
Yeah,
form this team. Vanessa and Abby, both of two very good players that we've mentioned a lot, especially Vanessa as an up and coming talent. Um, LX was somebody we always liked on low fidelity and just never really got the chance to qualify. Did sub for EG at some points
yep.
a while back, so that's that. And then of course Lisa's kind of I don't want to say the fifth to round it all out because she has her own strengths as well, but we haven't seen enough from her yet. I want to say we haven't seen too much
I
from
think
Lisa.
I think we haven't seen enough from the whole squad. Like we've seen enough from Empathy.
We've seen
Empathy's been
enough
going ham.
individually, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But definitely the squad's got a lot more to offer.
yeah, I think so. So that was the first team to qualify, and like I said, like you said, over Cherry Bombs, there, Draft, Genesis, Kathy, Swan, Shelby. We'll see them again in the second qualifier. The other team to qualify versus U-Turn, who we'll talk about a little bit here. U-Turn is Pippi Sippy, Reef, Catalyst, Cincy, Haley. They went up against Bite, who is Bella, B-Max. Shout out to B-Max, by the way. Legendary name coming back for another stint.
Yep.
Kale Cat,
Love
Rice,
it.
and Sunny P. Interestingly enough, on this one, Rice, the last time I saw Rice playing was as a substitute for EG when the whole roster thing happened, when they were having roster issues a while back. And that was originally when Empathy left. They had Rice sub in for them, and that's
Gotcha,
kind of where that
gotcha.
went. So Bite played U-turn, and it was pretty close on the first map, and on the second map it wasn't as much. So a 2-0 for Bite, winning over U-turn. So the first two teams to qualify were Shimmer and Bite. They make it through, and then the second qualifier comes around, and I don't remember. I think there was still. I think
There were
there was
five
four.
teams.
There was 5 teams.
Yeah, there were 5 teams.
So there, I think it was Eros Ethereal who didn't make it past the
Yes,
quarters,
yes.
which
They lost to
Seraphim.
yes, they lost to Seraphim. That's right. That was the 16-14.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so yeah, it comes to the next two matches here to kind of decide everything. And the team to qualify on the upper side was Starfish over Seraphim. So that's
Right.
Kichu, Emchi, Moistened, Tippy, and Yoshilo. They go over Seraphim. Seraphim was Bunny Hops, Jandaya, Mika Calls, Panic Blossom, and Tatiana.
Shout out to Yoshilu, by the way. In the Impact League, she wanted to be so bad. Now here she is. A lot of Yoshilu fans as well.
Yeah.
So
And then coming to the bottom side of the bracket, we had Cherry Bombs going up against U-Turn, and that's a little bit of a gut punch because both those teams were very close. The first qualifier, they had to then face each other off in one best of three to decide who makes it, and it ends up being U-Turn winning with stand-in. Mama Alien notably was standing in for Cincy because I think her classes were running long or something like that, so she couldn't participate that week.
that's terrible.
That's
That sucks.
that's what's even more interesting is that's going to be a continuation into the season, is
Yeah.
because of the schedule being moved. They didn't tell the players until they just revealed the schedule to be Wednesday Thursdays, and so
That's been known about for a while, actually.
yeah, but it was one of those things. If it happened, it was like you had to select your class schedule, and then it kind of got revealed a little bit later. And so since he went, oh, so I moved my courses away from Fridays because that was the
Mhm,
expectation was, oh, we'll be playing
mhm.
on Fridays,
Thursday, Friday,
Thursday,
yeah.
Friday, and they moved it to Wednesday, Thursday. And she went, oh, poo, that's where I pushed all my classes.
Gotcha.
Great,
Yeah, 'cause she
so
would have
much fun.
scheduled classes like a while ago.
Yeah. So yeah, so that leaves Cherry Bombs and Seraphim out, as well as Eros Ethereal. Um, really good matches, honestly, throughout those qualifiers.
Yeah,
I was
you kind of
impressed.
pointed out to me on the side that Catalyst looked particularly pretty impressive, and
Yeah.
that this could be a player to watch on this side. So, let's bundle that into the groups, shall we? We'll
No,
start
for sure.
with Group A. It's going to be CLG, Saints, Shimmer, and Bite. Saints have gone through a few roster changes themselves, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
They lost
Paula,
Paula,
they
and they
lost
picked
Jake
up
Cranny.
Daria,
Yeah.
and they lost Jay Cranny, and they picked up HS Dot. So they 2 out, 2 in. First off, I'm very glad to see HS Dot back in the Impact League, a
Mm-hmm.
player I do like. And um, I like that Scraft is going to get a second go at the Impact League as well. Obviously, she was the one that had to or couldn't go because of the visa issues.
Mm-hmm. Into
But
Katowice.
yes, to Katowice, of course, yes. But honestly, Parks, I still think it's CLG at the top
Mm-hmm.
of this group. I think Shimmer's going to give them a fight that they might not be ready for in some of these maps. But I think it's going to be CLG and Shimmer Bite to finish third, and Saints are probably going to be at the bottom.
I disagree. I think on that one. I think we
Okay.
still have to look at Saints as the team that qualified for Katowice. Yes, they lost 2 players into that, but I don't know. The replacements they're getting are both very good themselves. I look at it and I go CLG Red for sure, top of the board. The first match between Saints and Shimmer will really decide it for me on kind of where I'll lean. For now, just because of recency bias and because of where the matches that have been played, I'm gonna put Shimmer above Saints. But
Okay.
it was kind of like that with Chimkin and Shimmer. I didn't know which one was the better of the two, and
Oh, I do. It's Shimmer.
I still kind of don't. And this,
That's
listen,
me. That's me.
I still kind of don't know who I would rank above each other. The Shimmer squad has kind of turned itself into, effectively what we had with who was it? It was
Listen,
Sacrifice, where we had the
listen.
Sacrifice and Please Send box kind of going back and
Listen.
forth between each other.
Yeah, Shimmer has become. They are the Power Rangers. Okay, when they unite, they will become that big giant morph thing and fight evil. Okay, that is Shimmer.
You should go earlier. What's an earlier reference you can go with?
uh, Transformers. But they don't morph into one, man. They just morph into another
Yeah,
version
but
of
they do stuff with
themselves.
teamwork, Benny. It's teamwork. No, I
And Heart,
and heart.
Captain Planet.
Autobots roll out.
Exactly. Why is there Autobots in Captain Planet? What the hell is that?
Why is Captain Planet in the Transformer universe? These are
There you go,
questions we
yeah.
do not
Because
ask.
he's got a heart. Okay,
Just
that's
keep
why.
recycling. Okay, that's all we ask. No, Shimmer. I'm gonna put Shimmer above Saints. I still put Saints above Bite. And part of that is because I have not seen enough of Bite, and I haven't seen enough of Saints recently, especially with the roster changes. Part of that is I look at the roster that Shimmer has put together, and I go, those are movers and shakers, and definitely I'm going to rock with those. So that's Group A. Group B, Chimkin, Evil Genius is Gold, Starfish, and Team Factor
Team
Ruby,
Factor Ruby.
which is
Yeah.
U-Turn. We'll get to that in a
Yep.
bit. We're leaking everything already. We already talked about some roster moves. Trying to leave that for the
That's
end.
true. No, it's all
This is a weird one, and it's a lot of it has to do with what EG will look like.
right. That's the polite way of putting it. A lot has to do with how bad will EG look. That's
Well, and this is the
essentially how
thing
it's gonna
that
be.
is interesting is they have picked up a player. Player is
Yes.
listed on ESL Impact's website, so I'm not disclosing anything that nobody can actually go out and look at.
Right. It's
And
public
find.
information.
It's pretty much public information. If you know where to look, you can find it pretty easily, and it's been there for weeks. They have not tried to hide it at all. It seems honestly in a way of they just kind of forgot to announce it at this point. Considering the matches.
No, they're gonna wait till the Impact League starts. Like they're gonna
the
announce
first
it like
match is in 2 days, so like by
I
the
know, but
time
they're EG's the kind of thing they're gonna announce it Wednesday at like 1 p.m. and
yeah
be like, or it might be like the game's at 7:30 at EG tweet, catch her in action in a half hour on, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where they tweet literally as the match is
yeah
is
like
going on podcast.
anyways
Yeah.
I'm gonna put Chimkin at top. I think I look at that and I saw how they played against Shimmer yesterday, and I saw how they've done recently. They are really active. They are doing a lot of work. I'm going to put them up top. I'm going to put EG Gold next. And the reason I'm putting EG Gold next, the whole reason I'm putting them next, is because of the player they're picking up.
Okay.
Full stop.
That's fair. Do you want to know who I'm putting next?
I think I know who you're putting next.
Who am I putting
You're
next?
putting Team Factor Ruby next.
No.
Really? Okay.
No, I'm not.
You're
I'm
putting
Starfish.
You're putting Starfish next. Look at
I'm putting
this.
Starfish next. I think Kichu and Tippy are pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's enough there for them. Looking at the lineups, I think on paper you would factor Team Ruby. I do agree. I think you might be onto something actually because I'm looking at Pippy Sippy and Regan Catalyst. I'm going, yeah, actually, yeah. Forget it. I'm putting Team Factor Ruby second place. Okay. I'll put it on record for Team Factor Ruby. I penciled in
It was pencil.
I penciled in Starfish, but I quickly erased it like I do in a Sudoku puzzle.
Yeah.
I don't do Sudoku, but you
I
know what
do.
I'm talking about.
Sudokus are awesome.
And yeah, it's good for the brain. And I'm glad you do Sudoku. And it's Team Factor Ruby. I'm gonna put Team Factor Ruby second.
Yeah, and this is kind of where I was gonna go. Is next would be Team Factor Ruby and then Starfish, and that is again, it's no detractor
I disagree.
to. It is no. I know you disagree, but it's no detractor by me to put Starfish fourth because this does look like a very competitive group, and
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. Part of it is I really like the growth I've seen from Team Factor in the last month and a half, 2 months. Like, I think back to when they first popped in a Cash Cup, and I said, okay, they're pretty good, and they made it to the finals. And I was like, that's really good. I like that. I like this team. And at the time, I only really knew Reef on this team. At the time, I'm like, this is a really good team that Reef has kind of helped put together. She's very noticeable on it, but at the same time, very good team structure overall. I'm interested. Keep me interested. And they have done that.
Shout out to Reef, by the way.
Shout out to Reef, yeah. And the next few cash cups they kept coming back, and they were always second place, which sucks. But the fact that they were making the grand finals every single time, and they were getting all that extra experience, all that practice in, aside from having a decent open season, coming through, it keeps me intrigued, and it shows that it shows why the org came in to support them. This is a team that is grinding it out, putting up some results that are fairly attractive, and are willing to stick together in the long term, which I think is great.
Yeah. I think I agree, and I think they have been looking better recently. So, which makes me think like, how high is the ceiling?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's the big question. Because if they have more that they can find, then I think they're a lock in for second place. But I think if what we've seen is close to the peak, then they have to worry about Starfish below them. I think Starfish will be third. I think Starfish will be third. I think everything in my brain tells me that EG are going to be too good with just the individual skill to put them bottom of the group. But everything that I've seen tells me that EG, if there's one thing they have been the champions of in the last 6 months, that is throwing away opportunities. And this is a great way to do it, and been finishing bottom of the group. And it makes me feel I'm gutted for Milky, because Milky came back to Counter-Strike. Absolute, I could not sing her praises high enough. A wonderful person. And she's pretty much in elo hell right now on this roster. It has to be said. Like it's a very tough situation, and this roster's making a change. Savalicious, good player, very good player.
Thanks for name dropping. You couldn't have waited.
Oh, sorry. Well,
It's okay.
we're covering it anyway.
I'm
Like,
kidding. I'm kidding.
anyway,
I stunned you.
it's look,
The
very good
audacity.
player, and you're right. She's going to bring a lot of firepower that this team definitely needs right now. But I think there's too many other missing pieces. Like I think Piggy Kiki's going to be too inconsistent on the AWP. I think they still need firepower. I think if Jess isn't in-game leading, this is going to be still a really rough team in terms of the tactics. I just think there's too much that's unanswered in terms of the question. So I would put them bottom of the group, and it's one of those ones that I think it's people are gonna say no, they're signed by an org, but it's certainly on the
It
table. I
hasn't
don't
been
think you can
good.
take that off the table.
Yeah. I agree. I think there's issues with this roster. Another thing that gives me big issues with both EG and Saints is they haven't played any cash cups this year at all. CLG Red,
Yeah.
I don't care if they play or not. Like every single time they've played, they win. It's they do
But
not lose
the thing with
domestically.
CLG Red is too, by the way, is they're doing like CCT. They're gonna do
Yeah,
CCT.
they do
So they're
CCT.
doing other
They're
competition.
in
Like
Maine. They're doing other events and stuff. Like they're doing enough that it doesn't really affect. I look at it and I go, it's okay. Like we know their ethos. We know how they operate. I'm okay with them missing cash cups because in a way, for them, it's just a walk in the park. Like I would much rather them play into the regular cash cup and get taken out in the third, fourth round and learn a lot more and play against competition that's going to test them rather than just pub stomping the female cash cup every single time around. And it's unfortunate that it's like that there's not a team that's really there yet. I'm hoping that Shimmer and Chimkin will be that very soon, but it's going to take time for that to happen. And in the meantime, a squad like Evil Geniuses, a squad like Saints, who they might not, they might be they're on the better side of the spectrum just by the fact that they were invited into season 3. But at the same time, we haven't seen anything from them. And that's where we look and we go,
right,
this is the biggest question mark of them all, mostly because we haven't had a chance to look at it, and
right.
you know, we don't have any information. There's nothing that has happened in the last few months to say, oh yeah, other than Katowice, we haven't seen Saints, and this is a new Saints roster now because they've got 2 players that were at Katowice gone. One of the players that wasn't able to attend to Katowice is still on the roster, but that's essentially 3 players change from
Right.
the last time we saw them. It's
Right.
weird.
Well, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we have to.
We'll leave it at that. So, we did have a round of cash cups. If I'm just going to burn through the results. I
Yeah.
don't think there's particularly a lot to talk about with them. So we'll start in Oceania. Newt and Treads. It's the old rivalry. We only got 2 teams this time because actually in Australia, New Zealand, it's very weird. They had the New Zealand IESF event,
Yeah.
but then that got canceled because there's only 3 players. So they moved it to Australia, but then they want like 4 teams, and it's like, well, with the New Zealand players, we get 4 teams for the Cash Cup. Like it just,
If you
it,
want to
but
go over
not
the
like all
IESF real
Australia.
quick, like if we have 5
Yeah,
minutes or three to 5 minutes, just quickly talk about
essentially,
this.
stop doing the country shit. Like
Well, no, not
even
even
in
that.
Europe,
Not even
even in
that.
Europe,
Stop having stop having number requirements because every single
right? Yeah,
ISF
that's true.
qualifier required there to be 4 teams. You are not
Yeah,
going to get 20 players from each region to show up to these things. Like, it's the same thing in Canada. It was the same thing in New Zealand. It's the same thing in Australia. Pick
yeah,
any of the nations in the world, you're going to find maybe 5 that can do that. And some of
yeah.
them are ones you don't expect.
Yeah, I just swore for the second time, by the way. I
Yeah,
had a
thanks
second
for
one.
that. You do have to
No,
take
sorry.
mine.
Yeah, I got to take yours. But no, like the point is, like you could get in Poland, you can get 2 to 3 teams, right? Russia, you could get
You
freaking
get
10.
10.
I
Who
mean,
cares?
yeah, yeah. Denmark, you could put together like 3 or 4. But like if you go to Portugal, which has produced some of the best players in this scene, or you go to Spain, that's produced some of the best, you'll be lucky to get
Yeah.
a team, and you need 4 teams. Like this tells me how disconnected IESF is from the scene, and it just there's so it's just a level of incompetency that I cannot describe in mere words.
And
It
listen,
just essentially is what it is.
I'm more than happy to have a national team. I'm okay with that. I
Right,
understand
but
there. I
a
understand
team,
that.
not 4.
A team exactly. I'm okay with needing to put together a team. There's a different way of going about it. When I was talking to because I was very focused on the Esports Canada side. When I was talking to the head of that organization, and she's like, yeah, I'm more than like I don't know how the qualifiers are gonna. And this is months ago. This is around the time when the first qualifiers came about. Canada wasn't announced. We're like, what the heck? Why? Um, she basically said like, I don't know how the qualifiers are going to work. We could do something where we just we have a big tryout essentially, and you have a certain amount of people going for a certain amount of spots, and then depending on who's the best or who works in those spots, who's available in those spots, you pick them together, and then you have a big boot camp together for like a weekend or something, a weekend away from it all. You do the boot camp, and then that team is now your cohesive team. That is your team Canada that will go to the qualifier. There's no need for these smaller teams qualifying to going against each other to qualify.
Yeah,
You're going
yeah.
to build the
It's
roster up.
it's nonsense. Yeah,
It's I don't know. So the whole 4 team thing, that whole requirement, get rid of it. It's not useful. And
yeah.
it was the same thing with Westseg, right? Like it just didn't make sense.
You
So
you can't tell me, by the way, that you had Namibia go to a land. And nothing against Namibia, great country, but you can't tell me that Namibia went to a land and you had 4 teams come out of that country.
yeah, it just
Like,
doesn't.
there's no way.
No,
There's no
it's
way. Like
it's
those players have been playing Counter Strike a while. God bless them, love them, great. But that is a team that has been playing Counter Strike for a while. A team,
yeah, one. It
not
is
4.
not a
Like,
whole
yeah,
thing.
there's no way you're telling me that.
They're
So
not going to have the
it's
numbers they did
it's just a
last year.
bunch of it's absolute jiggery pokery, all of
Yeah,
that.
it is.
So
Anyways, that's a little rant over for that.
yeah, a little random rant. So we'll even put it in this thing, random rant in the
Yeah.
little
Well,
time
we'll
bar.
call it the
But
IESF question or something.
yeah, the IESF random rant.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the cash cup, shall we? So Oceania, they had other events as well. They had the ANZ National Championships,
Yeah.
which by the way, ESL does ANZ, Australia and New Zealand. Hint, 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 hint,
Yeah.
hint. But no, so it was tough to get the turnout, but we did get Newt and Treads. Um, Newt, Artemis, Wolfa, Chicken Loaf, Soko, Eminent. They won. 16-14 was a really good Inferno game. Treads were
Yeah.
actually up, and Newt ran that back.
I was up
I
for that
think,
one. I was awake for
yeah,
that.
that was
I
good.
watched
That
the
was a
first
good
half
map.
with you, and then I went to bed because it was late.
Yeah, yeah. And then 16-7 on Vertigo. So Newt have won. There's 6 cash cups in 7.
Yeah.
Or no, I'm sorry. That's their 7th cash cup in 8. If you count that like hybrid Newt side
Yeah.
that had a few roster swaps because of the limitation. Over in Asia Pacific, HSG are back. And here's a big thing that I forgot to put, and I'm gonna drop it. It's breaking news. I forgot to put it in the chat. They've made a roster change.
Oh, really? Okay.
HSG have made a roster change. Now, I don't know if it's official. We haven't seen an announcement. They don't really use Twitter that much,
No.
so it doesn't seem like we're gonna get an announcement. But Xiao Wu has been out of the side, and it is Leo Bang that's come in, or Leo for short, that has come in as a replacement. Now, Leo's been playing in China for a while. He's a very good player. Used to play on the old, I think, Tyloo female side as well. So these players
Yep.
know this player as well. Fits right in. The important thing is there was a competition that I haven't looked up the results yet called the Goddess Cup.
Okay.
So they played this cup, HSG. They played this cash cup, and they won. They beat LVG female, which is another Chinese team, by the way. Zai Wen, Zheng Ke, 1VV, White Chen, and Gas. 16-5, 16-8, Inferno and Ancient.
Yep.
So HSG with their record-breaking 15th Cash Cup globally. They lead all other sides, by the way.
Yep.
But what I want to say is they played this Cash Cup with Leo, and then they posted a tweet that they were going to play in this thing called the Goddess Cup, which I would have to look up 5e, and I probably will
Right.
whenever I remember to look at who played in this Goddess Cup. So the name would indicate to me that it's probably a women's tournament.
Right.
And they when they posted the picture, Leo Bong was in the picture. So I think Leo, I think it, like to me, and that was a few days later.
Yeah.
So to me, it sounds like this is actually going to be a permanent roster change. So, Xiao Wu potentially out and Leo in for HSG as your breaking news, but they have won a 15th Cash Cup. That's the big takeaway here as well. Um, over to
South
South
Africa.
Africa.
Africa, you nearly did it.
Yes, I
No, this
did.
one was actually really good. I managed to catch a few of the streams with for Haya Newt.
With
While I
Newt.
was shoveling, I was shoveling snow. I would come back in and watch. He's like, "Oh yeah, it's hour delay
You know what's
because of
funny,
server
real quick?
issues."
I know somebody who's also Canadian who lives in outside Toronto,
Yeah,
and he shoveled and then took a picture like an hour after he shoveled and was like, "What the hell?" And it was just everything was covered again.
we
I
got
was
a foot
like,
of snow in like 5 hours. It was insane. It was 30 centimeters.
yeah.
So for
But
all our
back to
international,
South Africa.
back to South Africa. So I managed to catch some of the matches in between watching. They actually had 4 teams show up, and I think it was 4 roster teams. I forget what the 4th team was called because it's not on the ESCA. Or sorry, it's not on Wikipedia here. Let me.
Yeah.
I have to
Well,
find
the
it.
other
I
one
want
was
to click the
definitely
block there.
vibing, but
It was
Aperture.
Vivint Aperture. Yeah.
Aperture, yeah.
So good name, very good name, very very on brand.
Yeah.
I don't recognize any of these players, but it's another potential org that's kind of popping in and saying hi, which is really cool. But it kind of went the way that we all expected
Yeah.
it to. ATK ended up winning. They beat White Rabbit Amaralis because they had actually hold on, did they have was it? It
We
was
didn't
what
get
WR.
the banger series
It
between White
was
Rabbit and Vibin that we always did.
no,
You know, they were like closed series for a long
yeah,
time.
it
We didn't get the
was
bangers.
well, it was 16-2, 16-7, 16-10. So full
It's
3
not really a
maps,
bangers.
but it's not it's not as much of a banger as we usually get. So, but no, still doing strong, still looking good. I guess that's one thing that we kind of need to think about just as we go into the big 3 kind of regions now. That's all the wild card regions.
Well,
The
real
wild
quick
card,
on South Africa,
yeah,
just a note. I'm sorry, I know we have to
no,
move
no,
on,
it's fine.
but this is the time where you're going to start to see some of these other um organizations like Aperture. Aperture's been around for a while,
Yeah,
and some of these players have, like Leo the Lunatic's been playing for a while, Misty Buns as well, Roxy Foxy, but they do have a gaming series, I think sponsored by Telecom, that
right,
plays every late, I want to say it's late spring. So we're getting close to that. So more, you might see a
like
push of more teams come up
right.
because they're preparing for that league.
That
Just
makes
a note.
sense. And I mean, kind of carrying into that of other teams going into qualifiers and stuff. Um, those are the wild card regions. Those are the 3 wild card regions. The wild card region has not been told. We have not been told yet what the wild card
Yeah,
region will be, and that's
right.
actually kind of ties into why we had a Cash Cup in Oceania, even with the other kind of events that were happening at the time, because they basically I believe the way it was described to me when you told me about it was they foregoed the other matches in favor of trying to
Yes,
stick to ESL Impact to try and show yes we're still a region, we're still
yes.
around.
Sarah was on a team for the ANZ Championships, like a mixed team
Yeah,
that was going to compete and like play with like one of Groundhogs former or Greyhounds former players.
Right.
So like, good players. But she said she backed out of the event so that she could play in the Cash Cup because they want to show to ESL that they're still interested in playing and
Yeah.
that they can potentially get the qualifier spot for season 3.
And I wish they would say what the wild card spot is by now, because the season's about to start. I kind of understand why they haven't yet. At the same time, you got to give us something soon, because these teams need to know sooner rather than later if the
It's
focus
the
of the events.
it's the lack of communication that hurts the most. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
cut you because
No, it's fine.
it's the thing where it's like if you had announced that they would have gotten it or if they wouldn't have gotten it, Sarah could have played in that ANZ, and it's like you don't know. Now you have the potential for a woman to make the ANZ championships. That would have been like how much of a milestone would that have been? But now you potentially deny that because the player has to choose: do I want this region to get the wild card spot, or do I want to play in the ANZ
Yeah,
championship? Like it just if the communication was clear from the start, you avoid that issue.
for sure. So we are going to keep pushing on here because we are running low on time.
We're running over. Get ready.
We're running over for sure. I'm hoping not to run over too far. We'll do South America next. It was 4 teams coming through. B4, LRV, Endgame, and
Zarasco.
Zarasco. There you go. And that is Isa, Bokar, Furzi, Yohinda, and Sammy. So
Yeah, it was
it's a
like a
mix of players.
weird mix of
It
all
was
the signed
Yeah,
players.
it was
Yeah.
Furia, MIBR, and a W7M player to kind of finish it off
Yep.
there, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
And B4 come out on top. Makes sense. They actually,
Zarasco made the final though.
yeah, I was gonna say Zarasco in the final, and they didn't get double digits on either map. They got a total of 13 rounds. Crazy, right? Hey, the magic
Hey,
number,
but they
magic
won a
number.
series prior, so
Yeah, they
hey.
so yeah, B4 still looking very good, looking very dominant, which is good for them coming into the season. And I mean, Poppin's popping off usually is
Yep.
pretty good sign, as the other
Yep.
players are as well. You want to do Europe or North America next?
We can do Europe. I do want to clear something up with Europe really quickly though,
Yeah,
because the page says that the page says that we got 10 teams.
yeah,
We didn't get 10 teams. We got 5 teams in Europe because of the Fast Cup that was going on. So a
right,
lot of the teams double signed up and then just didn't check in for the Cash Cup. So the 10 teams is a little misleading. We actually only got 5.
right.
Um but anyway, uh that was won by aces actually. So Monamoon, Milo, Missy, Waldy, and Putya. So Aces beating Requiem, by the way, the team of Vispel, Alinka, Stacy, uh, is that Nika?
I would say Nika.
Nika, yeah, and
Yeah,
then Sade's Death as well. So some players who haven't really played prior. I don't really remember a ton of these players. Obviously on the Aces and Cute and newbies, I do, but not particularly on Requiem. So
yeah,
I don't think it was much more than that. Aces taking away the Cash Cup. So over to North America, the final region.
yeah. And just one last thing before we leave Europe here. Aces won against newbies. It was a 16-7 on the first map, and then they just didn't even play newbies. They got a forfeit win on that. So you
Yeah,
can kind of tell where the priorities were at. They didn't. There wasn't a lot of teams there because they were busy with Fast Cup, which we didn't actually get a chance to talk about today. No, coming into North America, I loved this series. Towards the end, it was Chimkin versus Shimmer. There was it 5 teams that showed up? Was it 8? I don't remember. Hold on, let me open up the bracket real quick.
it was a
It
full
was 8. It
bracket.
was a
It was
full
8.
8. It was a full 8 that
Full
came through.
bracket.
So Chimkin beat out a few teams. And notable thing here, Eros Ethereal beat Cherry Bombs on
Yeah,
Inferno,
that was
which,
a really shocking result. I
yeah,
think.
that was a 16-14, and that's the thing that's really interesting because in the qualifier, Eros Ethereal beat them on the first map they played, and then Cherry Bombs came back on the next 2. So really cool on that side. Otherwise, just kind of the same old, same old. We end up getting into the 4 teams of Chimkin, Eros, Shimmer, and Team Factor Ruby. Team Factor Ruby went up against Shimmer, and that was a very interesting series because early on, both those matches early on, it was very much Team Ruby or Team Factor is very much in this. In fact, on Nuke, which was the second map, they got up. I think they were up 11-4 or something like that. They were up. Yeah, they were up 11 or 9-6. They were up 9-6. Sorry, it was 9-6. I can read the thing. They were up 9-6 at the half, and then they kind of fell apart. and it ended up being a 16-13 in the way of Shimmer. As for Chimkin, Chimkin just breezed through Eros Ethereal as a 16-0 on Overpass and a 16-4 on Vertigo. Then you get to the grand finals, and oh my goodness, what a banger. It should have
Yes,
been
the series we
overtime.
really wanted
Oh,
to.
it was so good. 16-12 on Mirage, 16-8 on Overpass. You then go to Inferno, and oh my goodness, a 16-14. It should have been overtime. Like
Yeah.
that clip is. I talked to Bouchard about that afterwards. And I was like, listen, don't beat yourself up because
I actually don't know what clip you're talking about. I have to go back and watch the
it
map. I fell asleep during the map break between 2 and 3. I had the
it
phone
was
like this
so
plugged in, and I just was
it
like,
was so
"Yeah."
it was so good. It was
Yeah.
like honestly, everybody in chat was like, "Where's OT?"
Yeah.
the Actually, Onerman was so funny. Onerman made the clip, came back, and then I rated Shelby afterwards because she was streaming, and he
Yeah.
comes in after the raid and he's like, "Guys, where's the OT on map 3?" And we're both sitting there and we're like, "You clipped the game over!" Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
anyways, so
Uh,
yeah, Chipkin and Shimmer is gonna be a classic series when that comes through. Honestly, if Chimkin are top of their group, that becomes really really insane. If it's CLG Red and Shimmer, and then it's like Chimkin and whoever, it's Chimkin and Shimmer to decide who goes to Dallas.
yeah.
That blows
That's
my
that's
mind.
gonna be
That's
fire.
gonna be a
That's gonna be
banger.
so good. Yeah.
So
There was Parks. That is North America.
yeah,
I got nothing more to add. There was one other competition we got to talk about.
yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna have to go quick on it.
Well, we'll try to go quick on it, but it does need a somewhat extensive coverage.
Okay.
It was the Fast Cup Easy Drop Aurora 5v5 competition. Now, Fast Cup is independent tournament organizer. It was a 2,000 euro tournament as opposed to $1,000
Yeah.
for the Cash Cup, right? So we got a heavy sign up. And this is what I love to see, right? There are players in this that played in this because Fast Cup is a Russian based organization.
Yeah.
So we got a lot more Russian teams than we normally do.
Mm-hmm.
And first off, they were fantastic to work with. I do have to say, it was all open IP,
Yeah.
but they were brilliant. And the tournament ran pretty smoothly. But we got 30 teams in
Yeah,
this.
and I'm looking at the
We had
names on these
so
teams.
many teams, and we had some good ones too. MVP were in this one.
Yep.
Um, 55 Power were in this one. Insilio even played this one.
Yep.
Astralis, Nine Pandas Fearless, Biggie Keepa were in this. Orglis were in this. NIP were in this. Shinigami were in this, right?
Yep.
And Shinigami played some pretty good Counter Strike. I have to say that's another team to look out for. They made a very deep run, but essentially we got down to the upper bracket quarters, and we had Nine Pandas play Biggie Keepa
Yeah.
after one of them just skated by Shinigami. NIP skated by Shinigami 16-13. That was a really tight series. Basically, everything was best of one. It was double limb. Everything was best of one,
Yeah.
except the losers final and the grand final, which were best of three.
Yes.
And we got an interesting game. Big Equipo just absolutely were miles in front of Nine Pandas in that map. That was a Vertigo,
Yeah.
by the way. And then they played NIP, and they were miles ahead of NIP. That was also a Vertigo.
Yep.
And then they played So Hard to Reg, and they played that one on Nuke,
Yep.
which was interesting. But then Big played one other map, and I can't remember the map at the time. They played one, and it was oh no, it was also Nuke. They played Orglis on Nuke. And they played their opening map against Jessia, which I think was Vertigo. So they played Vertigo 3 times, Nuke twice.
Yeah.
So the Nuke looked good. They played against Pug teams, granted, but So Hard to Reg had a I mean, this is so hard to rank is Bullet Girl, Hellrose, Mikiri, Sonic, and AGR. So AGR formed by Flames, Hellrose, and Bullet Girl, who are both very experienced players. Mikiri's pretty good, Sonic as well. So this team took down some good scalps in getting here. Had some tough games, a lot of overtimes as well. But Biggie Keepa sent everybody pretty much to the lower bracket. They won out on the winner's side, right? And their Vertigo looked great, it has to be said. Nine Pandas, though, steamrolled everybody on the lower bracket side. And they played Astralis. They beat them 16-9. Astralis really weren't in that game. NIP definitely weren't in the game versus Nine Pandas. the NIP game was on Overpass. The Astralis game was on Mirage, which if you look at this team, Nine Pandas, if you look at what Connie said prior to Katowice, how they performed at Katowice, why would you pick Mirage against them? They're just such a strong Mirage team. They picked Mirage. They got absolutely handled on that map for it. They pretty much steamrolled so hard to reg. It was 16-1 on Anubis, 16-4. That's the other thing. We saw Nine Pandas play Anubis twice. I got to cast my first Anubis game. That was interesting. I had to do it twice in that tournament. And then
What did you end up calling it? Connector e-box.
no, it's connector. There's no
It's an
e-box
There's a
there.
box there. I'll show you later.
Do you know what an e-box is? It's an electrical box.
I
It's a Anubis.
build
There's
electrical
no
boxes,
electricity
Benikage.
on there.
I know what they
It's
are.
a box. It's connector. Anyway, Anubis is actually going to be the decider in this best of 3 grand final.
Yeah.
The Vertigo though went the way of Nine Pandas. Interestingly enough, I was expecting Big to take that Vertigo. They really needed to take that Vertigo, but they didn't, and it was complete capitulation on the Mirage. Big do not look anywhere close to a Mirage team. 16-2 was that second map, and so Nine Pandas won. So Big Keeper looked great. They smashed everybody all through the whole tournament on Vertigo and Nuke, and then they get to the final, and they give it up, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So Nine Pandas Fearless win the Fast Cup. This was a grueling cup too, because day one started at 10 a.m. Eastern, which would have been 4 p.m. Central European, and we did not end until I think the last game kicked off at 3:55 Eastern. So you're talking like 9, 10 o'clock pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Over in Europe. And then in this day 2, we started at 8:30 in the morning, which would have been what, 2:30 p.m. And the final started sometime around I think 2 p.m. Eastern, which would have been like 8 p.m. there. So not too late on either day, but just those are long days. It's a shame I didn't even get to cover the final because I had to pop off to do the AOR race. So I was so gutted. I was like, oh god.
Yeah.
But no, a good win for Nine Pandas, and definitely a very good litmus paper, I think, for what we're going to see on the Impact League, because
A lot of the teams were there.
a lot of the teams were there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, that's a good way to round this all out. We got a little bit of housekeeping to talk about now.
Yep.
Final few things. I know we're over already. We're gonna spend probably we got 10 minutes left. 10 minutes left.
10 to 15
There's
minutes.
some interesting stuff that I literally just heard now. And that's why I was typing. You might have heard that coming through.
Give it to us. Breaking news.
We can't give the breaking news yet. Breaking news yet.
Okay.
It's right at the end. Right at the end, we'll give the breaking news.
All right.
So CS2 announced.
Yes. Yeah. So
You were so excited.
I'll let you do it.
Benny was so excited. He wanted to push this in as much as possible. I made a bunch of funny jokes about it, but I don't want to repeat them because they are semi bad. They're a little edgy. They're a little.
You gotta leave the dad jokes.
Yeah. You're the old one here. CS2 has been bandied about rumored and alleged for years and years and years. It finally seemed like alleged for years and years and years. I think finally we're actually getting a concrete thing here. Especially because as somebody like Richard Lewis reporting on it, like the guy doesn't need to just throw something out there for throwing something out there. He is way beyond that as a career journalist. So him
and arguably the best one the scene's ever produced.
Yeah, and so when he puts some kind of credit to it, I believe it.
Yeah.
The other thing that kind of comes through is Nvidia's getting involved, and even if it's just as a spoof, as a joke, like they're doing so much work on it so early on. Like everybody is keyed into this. They know everybody's keyed into this. There was just some other things earlier today talking about, more things getting ported over. I think what this is for CS2 at least is literally just they're taking Counter-Strike and they're putting it in the Source 2 engine. They're going to fiddle around with it. They're going to make it better than the spaghetti code mess that we have right now, because that is what Counter-Strike is and has always been. It is a spaghetti code mess that two college guys came and made up, and they just never fixed it at all, because if they did, it's kind of like the coconut in TF2, the whole thing would break.
Well, I think the important thing is this looks like it's going to be a standalone game.
Yes.
Not like an update not like the modified Source 2 engine, or the Source engine from like when CS early days when it looks really ugly to today when it looks like doable. This is going to be a brand new game.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for it because it's going to continue the legacy of Counter-Strike. And I think a lot of players should be excited for it too. We're getting an upgrade. And like you said, it's a chance to get a clean engine with some clean coding. Don't think it's going to be clean. New engines barely are.
Yeah.
But gone are the days where engines are rigorously tested like the old Unreal engines used to be.
Yeah.
Not even the new ones are like that. The old ones, we're talking like 2, 2.5,
Yeah.
and 3. But I think this is good. What other games are we going to get from this engine? I'm interested in. Does this mean we're going to get, personally for me, as it means, are we going to get a new Day of Defeat? Are we going to get a new, you know,
Who
I don't
knows?
think we will.
I
I don't
don't
think we
think we
will.
will. I think we're kind of
But
past those days,
we
but
might get a Portal 3. But I do think that'd be good, man. That'd be
it
good.
would be
But
great, but they're not going to do it. Why would they?
that's the one game
They
they might do.
cannot count to
They
3. That's all I'm going to say. There's a reason why it's
they
Counter-Strike
might give us
2.
Portal 3.
I
That's the
wish.
one series that you would get. Let's put it that
Oh,
way.
I
But
would
anyway,
love it.
the point is I'm excited for it. I'm not the kind of guy that's going to go through and be like, oh, they're going to do it better because people are worried about skins and like, what are you going to do with this? What are they going to do with that? Just let it happen.
Yeah.
Your life will be so much better if you do. But I am excited that it is actually finally happening, and that's pretty much all I wanted to cover on it. So,
Yeah, that's excited.
CS2, see you on the other side. So,
All right.
but
Final bit of
next piece of
housekeeping.
news. Yep.
Rosters. Roster shifts. We
Yes.
talked a little bit. We've been kind of going back and forth on this because we had to talk about these things. I'm just going to quickly run through the ones we've got. Danu is out of Na'Vi. She
I know,
has
that's
been
sad.
replaced by Letty, who we mentioned earlier was on a team
Yes.
trying
Who's
to
a good
qualify
pickup, by
and
the
is
way.
a
A
good
very
pickup.
good pickup.
Exactly. So that's something to keep an eye out in EU. The other thing is JTR, the coach of Nigma Galaxy, has
This
left.
is the big news.
That is a big one, and I will say, talking to Leon had some things to say in terms of roster moves and everything happening, and I think he almost got every single one correct except for the Enigma Galaxy one.
Yeah,
He
nobody saw
said
this coming.
something. Well, we saw something in Enigma Galaxy, we did not see this. So
Right.
that coming through is a big thing. Astralis as well actually have picked up Meneshinks after dropping Rachel.
Uh, uh, m- uh, what?
Menshinks? I don't know how to say
No,
it.
it's
Main Shizing?
Mana Shung. Oh my God, I
It's
can't remember.
stop giving us hard names, please. And then big,
It's
we knew this one.
culturally there's
I'm gonna
what?
be culturally insensitive for a second. Please bend to my will, and that's somebody's gonna clip that and like send it to everybody. Like, look at this dumb. The other one that we already kind of knew and has happened for a while
Wait,
now is Big
I'm
picked up
trying to
Josie.
listen to the song.
Big has picked up Josie. I forgot who left on that one. That's an old one.
Monoskine. That's the name.
Monoskine.
Monoskine. Yes, it's from an old children's rhyme.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
that hits somewhere. So that's the big
Uh,
things. We talked about the Saints lineup having HS Dot
Yes.
and Bizdaria in there instead
Yep.
of Jake Cranny and Paula at that point. We said U-Turn got picked up by Team Factor. That's huge. And this is the breaking one. And I was told I had to ask because of course I had to ask.
Yep.
Chimkin had been picked up.
Yes. Okay, that's excellent. That's
Chimkin
excellent.
had been picked up. It is by a known org. I will say this org is going to the RMR in North America. It's a North American org going to the RMR.
I know.
You know?
I think I know.
You can't say it. You can't say it. You can't guess. You can't.
I'm not gonna say it, but I think I can put my thumb
You can
right
put,
on
you
it,
can
and
put your
I am
thumb on
gonna
it.
DM you the moment this
Oh,
episode's
definitely.
done.
I know. I understand.
Listen. One thing I did want to go back just to talk about the news a little bit more.
Yeah.
First off, JTR on the Spill the CT podcast, which is the new podcast from Hedya and Lucy. Good
Yes.
podcast. Check it
Amazing.
out.
I really need to listen to that while I'm doing this.
They basically said that he had got an offer from a males team
Yeah.
that is a
higher.
few divisions, a higher division.
Yeah.
And that he wants to explore it. What he's brought to the women's scene, I just don't think can be measured. Like his help with the Brazilians and in just translating and helping South America and everything that he's given to those players just for free. The story that Vilga had, which you got to let her tell it on the Spill CT episode. Seriously, go watch the episode on how he even became their coach and what he's brought to Enigma Galaxy and the improvements. Just an unbelievable human being who has given so much of himself to this scene and has come in and changed the landscape of this scene. We cannot thank him enough.
For
And
sure.
the success is only a byproduct of all of that hard work and all of that generosity that he's come in and given the scene. So, um, congratulations on 4 titles. He's leaving the women's scene on the top, and I'll definitely I don't follow the men's scene, I don't follow the pro scene, but he is definitely a coach that I am going to be watching where
You
he
keep an
goes
eye on
next.
some of them.
And it's he's already signed. It just
Yeah,
hasn't been announced
it
where
just
he's
has been
going.
announced. It's just-
So I'll be looking for that, and I wish him the best. I hope he just absolutely continues to crush it. Congratulations to him. Um, On to the Navi thing real quick with Danu. And I want you to go into your Twitter DMs because I did send you this and it was a chart, right? I took it from my phone, so it's not a clean snip.
yeah.
But it's from HLTV and it's from Danu, right?
Okay.
And it's sliding window of rating 1.0 for matches in the last 3 months in 1-day increments, right?
Yeah.
It goes back to so it's a
May of
3-month rolling
2022.
average, and it
Yeah.
goes back to May of 2022, right when Navi were first pretty much signed. She's hanging around like a 0.77, right?
Yeah.
And what do you notice about this chart? It is a slow but grindy ascent up
Yeah.
and consistently up. I mean, August 22nd, she's at a 0.96. Then you have the gap for the player break in the winter.
Yep.
And you come into the new year, and what happens? She's leveled up again. She goes up again in February, and she's at the 1.03. So this is a player who has been consistently improving, and you just came off a land where you've had your best ever result. Look, it's a good pickup. I'm by no means take nothing away from Letty. She's a fantastic player with a lot of skill, but I don't understand the need for the roster change. I really don't. So I'm interested to see what Navi Javelins do.
Yep.
I'm interested to see where Danu goes because there's plenty of opportunity for her given this improvement that she's shown, and this can't be the last that we've seen of her. So I'm on the lookout for if you're saying what if we're going to bundle this into our what am I watching
Yeah. We'll bundle it in
session.
right now. Bundle. What are we watching, Benny? What are you
I'm
watching?
watching Impact Season 3, but I'm watching for some roster changes
Yeah.
because I'm wondering where is Danu going? Where is JTR going? And how are the new I'm watching this new European division. It's going to be 6 teams deep.
Yeah. Piggybacking on that, I'm watching, I'm casting, I'm producing ESL Impact this season. We're gonna do that a little bit on the NA side. We'll get that rolling. But I am also paying attention to the playoff seasons of the teams that have made it. So CLG
Yes.
Red is one of them.
Yep.
I believe there's a few other teams in the open division in NA that have made it to
Timken, I
playoffs.
believe.
Chimkin, I think, yeah, and I
Yep.
think maybe Saints. I don't remember if it was Saints or if it was another
Okay.
team. One of them in there. Team Factor.
Not EG.
Yeah, not EG. Team Factor did not as well. I want to say. I believe Team Factor didn't. I believe they were near 500, but
Okay.
they didn't have enough. Which is fine. First season, who cares? Like it's gonna take time. But I'm gonna be keeping an eye on both of those things. And I'm gonna be keeping an eye on this Chimkin squad because they got signed, and I know who got signed. I know who signed them, and I am extremely excited for them. And I wish I could say it. I would scream it if I could, but I've been sworn to not do that because the podcast comes out tomorrow, and they cannot tell me the timeline of when they're gonna sign the announcement. They put out the tweet. Literally, they put out the tweet like 20 minutes ago, and they're like, who do you think it is? And I went, you better tell me right now because we're on the podcast.
We already know who it is, bro.
Yeah, we knew.
You and I both know who it is, bro.
Yeah.
But look, that's it. That's a wrap on the episode 12. A huge episode, so much to go over. I mean, this scene moves absolutely at the speed of light, and I'm sure there's going to be as much to go over in the next episode. That'll be in 2 weeks' time, though.
Are we
For
gonna do it in
now-
2 weeks' time? Do we want to do it in 1 week's time? Are we gonna commit to something like this? I don't know. That's something
We're
we need
gonna
to
do
think
it in
about.
2 weeks' time.
Every
For now,
he's like, I
thank you
can't
for
do this.
watching, and we'll see you in a fortnight.